Hi everyone, welcome to Anima Del Mar. Are we feeling a little angry right now? A little bit on edge maybe? And just like totally and completely drained? Right now we have a very rare 5-planet stellium in Aquarius that is forcing a massive frequency upgrade on the entire planet. But here's the thing. Most of us are failing the test because we're leaking energies in ways we don't even realize. So in this video, I'm diving deep into Gary Brecka's work on why authenticity is 4 times more powerful than love. I'm going to give you a 3-second biological test to tell if you're actually living in your truth or just paying biological tax that's physically aging your cells. We'll also talk about the massive shift of Saturn moving into Aries. I want to talk about my garden being destroyed by a possum and how it's been the most magical lesson I've had so far this year. And then I want to end the episode with some embodiment exercises so we can kind of stop the anxiety from turning into burnout before the eclipse hits on February 17th. So this is the week where the pretending really ends for all of us. So let's get into the sky. So, like I said, we have this really rare situation happening where almost all of our personal planets are in Aquarius at the same time. So we have the Sun, Mercury, Mars, Venus, and even Pluto all hanging out in Aquarius right now, which is kind of wild. So there's this fast-paced, truth-telling energy hitting basically every single area of our lives all at once. So how we think, how we love, how we act, how we see ourselves, and honestly how we relate to power with Pluto being in Aquarius right now as well. A lot of people are hitting the reset button right now, and honestly, thank God. January, we had everything stacked in Capricorn, so it was this very heavy, serious, structured, and honestly exhausting energy. So this Aquarian wave can feel really freeing and exciting, but also, I would say, pretty intense. When truth starts surfacing really quickly, it doesn't just bring transparency, it could also bring up a lot of suppressed anger, irritation, sadness, grief, all of that. Stuff that we've been tolerating or pushing down suddenly feels very, very hard to ignore right now. And that's actually part of what this energy is here to do. This is the kind of astrology that doesn't let you stay comfortable in something that is no longer real. It's not asking us to spiral or blow up our lives, but it is asking us to get really honest, especially with ourselves. And once that honesty lands, it's really hard to go back to pretending you don't know what you know now. So this energy can really help us get clear on things in our lives, but it's not going to be this gentle kind of self-care Sunday reset way of this authenticity coming in. It's more like, oh wow, I'm suddenly aware of how much bullshit I've been putting up with or how many choices I've made on autopilot. And Aquarius doesn't ease into realizations like this. It just kind of hands them to you and waits to see what you're going to do next with them. And so that's why I feel really called this week to kind of talk about this authenticity. And it's because all of this really feels like very edgy right now. You might notice that you have way less patience with people than usual. Systems, routines, everything, anything that used to feel quote unquote fine suddenly feels really annoying or even like enraging, right? And that doesn't mean that you're regressing or becoming reactive. It just usually means that you've outgrown something and your body is catching up before your life really has. So Aquarius wakes up the mind really fast and emotions come right behind it and say, cool, now what? And so, like I said, I'm feeling really called to talk about authenticity and, why this energy feels so physical right now. And I've been deep diving into Gary Brecka's work on the frequency of authenticity, And it's really the only thing I can find that explains this Aquarian shift that we're seeing in the collective right now. So Brecka talks about how everything in the human body is just a frequency. So literally every organ, every emotion, it all carries a measurable hertz level. And he cites this research that's honestly mind-blowing. He states that authenticity is the highest frequency the human body can emit. And it's something like 4,000 times more powerful than the frequency of love. Now, when you first hear this, it sounds kind of crazy, right? Because we're told that love is the ultimate goal here in life. But Brecka's point is that love can be projected. So you can say you love someone, but still be lying to them. Or you can say you quote unquote love your job while secretly hating your life. So love can be performative, but authenticity, it's not an emotion that you do, it's a state of being where your thoughts and your words and your actions are all a perfect one-to-one match. And when you're being authentic, your body isn't wasting any energy on that friction. So think about how much energy it takes to keep a secret or to act quote unquote fine when you're actually angry. This is a massive drain in our biological battery. And Brecka explains that when you're feeling or when you're in this state of inauthenticity, when you're saying yes but your body is screaming no, right? You're literally creating destructive interface in your own nervous system. You're short-circuiting yourself. So if authenticity is this massive power source, then why are we all so tired? And I think it's because we're just constantly leaking energy through what I said and what I call destructive interface. Gary Brecka explains that when two frequencies don't match, they actually just cancel each other out. So if your internal no meets up with your external yes, you're not just lying to yourself, you're actually literally neutralizing your own power. And so to stop this, I want you to start using a 3-second truth test. We live in a world that demands instant responses, texts, emails, phone calls, people asking for favors. It never ends, right? But your mind is always going to be a lot faster than your body. It's always going to come up with that polite excuse or that, I should do this in a matter of milliseconds. Your body, however, is always going to be honest. So, next time someone asks you something, I want you to wait exactly 3 seconds before you open your mouth or respond. In those 3 seconds, completely ignore your brain and check in with your solar plexus, which is just right above your stomach. If you feel a slight expansion or even a sense of neutralness, that's a green light. But if you feel even a tiny contraction, a tiny little tightening or a sudden urge to hold your breath in, that is your biological frequency telling you that yes is inauthentic. Brecka's work suggests that when you ignore that contraction and say yes anyway, you trigger a cortisol spike, first off, so your adrenaline goes way up, and you're telling your nervous system that your environment isn't safe because you can't even trust yourself to protect your own boundaries. So using this 3 seconds gives your body a chance to catch up to the conversation that's happening. It's the simplest way to start living in that 4,000 times frequency right here, right now. So when we're looking at this Aquarian sky, right, back to the astrology, Aquarius being the sign of rebel, a truth teller, the one who stands alone, we are being asked to kind of crank up that frequency level, crank up that power. And the reason you might feel exhausted or irritated this week is because the universe is literally upgrading the voltage in the entire collective. And if you're still trying to run that authentic current to that inauthentic life, you're going to get crossed wires and neutralized energy. And that's where the agitation starts coming in. And the timing, honestly, is pretty loud right now because Saturn is about to move into Aries on February 13th. And Saturn is basically the planet that says, okay, enough talking, enough theorizing. What are you actually willing to take responsibility for? And Aries, being a fire sign, is all about action, identity, choice. It's about doing the thing even if you're totally not ready to do it. So it feels like this week is the universe kind of showing you the truth in advance. It's like a frequency check. And if you admit this autopilot or people-pleasing frequency right now, Saturn is going to lock in and lock that in as a burden. But if you tap into this 4,000 times power of authenticity, of your own authenticity, Saturn's going to build on that platform on your actual power, if that makes sense. And then on top of all of this, Saturn moving into Aries, we also have an eclipse coming up on February 17th, which just kind of adds to the sense that something is really, really locking in. So eclipses don't usually bring brand new information. They finalize things. They speed up timelines. They close doors that have already been, halfway closed. And they open doors that you've already been kind of leaning towards, even if you haven't really admitted it yet. So right now it feels like it's this really specific window where we get to be honest early. We get to notice what no longer is working before we're forced into a decision later. And that's actually, I think, a gift. Even if it doesn't feel, really soft or pretty right now, I don't think this is the moment for drastic action or burning everything down. That's not what I'm trying to say. It's just more about paying attention. Watch where the irritation is pointing, Notice what you're suddenly unwilling to tolerate. Notice what keeps popping up into your mind no matter how much you try to distract yourself. Those are the things that I think we really need to be paying attention to right now. And that's the information Saturn is going to ask you to work with next when it moves into Aries. So if you have felt a little agitated, a little restless, a little like, I just cannot do this the same way anymore, you're not losing it. You're just waking up faster than the structure around you right now. And this is the week that I think we get really clear before the actual work begins. And so from a magic perspective, I really don't feel called to do any sort of manifestation work right now or anything about calling something in. The energy just really doesn't feel like that to me. And honestly, my body and mind don't feel synced fully to even attempt to do any of that either. It feels more like I'm still closing out old loops and getting really clear on what actually I want this year to look like before I start building or trying to build anything new. So something I've been doing lately at night, I've been washing my hands with salt and water before bed just to make sure that, anything I picked up during the day doesn't stick or follow me into my sleep. And that has been feeling so grounding. So if you feel called to do that, it's so easy, it's so simple, and it's just so grounding. I've also been trying to just slow down and really listen to what's happening around me instead of trying to rush to understand everything. I keep reminding myself that consistency matters more than urgency this year. And this kind of showed up for me in a really literal way recently. So story time, a few months ago, I started a small garden and I had some tomato plants and roses and rosemary in there. And about a month in, a possum came through and absolutely destroyed it, completely. Snapped all my tomato plants in half, ate all the roses, ate everything. And just kind of honestly treated it like a buffet for him. And I honestly thought about just tearing the whole thing down and starting over because I was like, what's the point, But something told me to clean it up and instead just keep watering the broken plants. And so I did. And I really didn't expect anything from it. And this weekend, I went outside and one of my tomato plants has grown one new tiny tomato. Just one. But it hit me in such a hard way. It felt so symbolic to this year. Like not giving up the second things don't look the way you thought they would. And not deciding it's all ruined because there was just one setback, right? I felt this quiet pride that I had stayed with it instead of walking away. And it honestly taught me something about just my own dreams and my own goals this year. You don't have to abandon something just because it went through a rough moment. And I think collectively, we're heading into a time where there's like a lot of fire and a lot of momentum happening. It's the year of the fire horse. A lot of desire to make, big changes personally and out in the world. And along with that, there's going to be a lot of energies that are going to come in and try to take that away from you. Try to take that growth that you're growing and you're building. And just like the possum, probably thought, wow, this is amazing. This is all for me. But setbacks are never personal. They truly are never are. And growth is always going to invite interaction. The work is learning how to adjust as you evolve instead of giving up when something doesn't go perfectly. Just keep watering what you're watering every single day this year. And no matter what, just show up consistently. I really truly feel like that is the magic right now and the real magic of this entire year. And, because we have all of this air energy and all of these thoughts, it's so easy to get lost in the what ifs as well. So to help me stay grounded in this frequency of authenticity, what I was talking about earlier, I started keeping what I call an authenticity ledger. And it's not complicated, it's not a whole journal, whole thing that you have to do. It's just a place where I note everything down, the moments in my day where I feel like that click, that for me, that 100% me, versus the moments where I felt kind of performative, or drained. And when you start tracking it, you start to realize that authenticity isn't just this big destination. It's a bunch of small embodied choices. It's saying no to the coffee date you don't really want to go to. It's wearing the outfit that actually makes you feel like yourself, even if you think it's, a little too much or not the right time. It's just a ledger of where you're spending most of your energy and where you're actually receiving it back. And so if you feel called to start one, I think it's a beautiful thing to kind of just embody your life, embody authenticity. And speaking of embodiment, like I said, with all of this air energy and the fire horse coming this year on February 17th, it's coming up. This kind of energy can flip from motivation to overwhelming really, really fast if we're not living entirely, in our bodies, and it's, mostly in our heads. Embodiment doesn't have to be dramatic or a big ritual. It's honestly so simple. So something that's been helping me stay, grounded lately is when I start to feel antsy or restless. Instead of grabbing my phone or opening up social media, I go just for a walk. No phone, no music, no podcast, just whatever's right in front of me in this moment. And it doesn't have to be, a long walk either. I literally just do a little loop around my block, and it just brings me back almost immediately. I just, I start noticing things. I breathe differently. I usually feel just overwhelmed gratitude again without even having to try. I mean, it's so simple. It's just a little walk. Another really big one for me has been eating with no distractions as well. So no phone scrolling, no TV in the background, just cooking myself a good meal and sitting at the table in peace. And it sounds simple, but it really does change the whole tone of your nervous system when you give your body that kind of attention. And anytime I catch myself overthinking or spiraling just a little bit, I'll do a quick 10-minute stretch routine, just, something on YouTube. Nothing intense, and I'll go ahead and link the creator down below that I do. It helps me so much more than trying to think my way out of something. So yeah, it's really simple things. Like I said, like I keep saying, it doesn't have to be this big production, but it actually really creates big change in your life over time. You don't need to have to do, everything embodied all at once, you just need to keep kind of coming back to yourself, back to your breath, back to your body, back to what is actually happening right here, right now. A lot of anxiety and overwhelm come from two things: being pulled out of the present moment and having a body that's ready to move when the mind is overloaded with options, which we have so many now. It's crazy. And most people were never taught how to regulate themselves. So I really think this is the time to start figuring that out, because it's going to be a fast and quick year. This year is going to be truly one to remember. And setting yourself up right now really matters. Pay attention to what your surroundings are telling you. Start creating that relationship with your body. Start syncing yourself back to the rhythm of the planet instead of fighting it. I honestly think this is the work right now. So I want to wrap this up by saying this. If things are feeling loud right now, mentally or emotionally, even, in your body, that doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. It actually just makes a lot of sense with everything that's going on. Like I said, there's so much air energy in the sky. There's so many thoughts, so many ideas, so many truths, realizations, and there's so much forward momentum building with Saturn moving into Aries and the fire horse coming up. Things really truly want to move, right now in our lives, and energy really, really wants a direction. So the work right now isn't to figure everything out or rush into action or force clarity. It's to stay present enough in your body so whatever wants to move can actually do that without turning into anxiety or overwhelm. And you don't need to be perfectly regulated. That's not what I'm trying to say. But, you do want to let the energy move through you instead of piling up with nowhere to go. So here's something really simple you can do to kind of transmute that energy. And it's whatever you're feeling right now. It could be any emotion: restlessness, sadness, irritation, even excitement. It all works the same, okay? So take 10 minutes, that's it. Set a timer if you need to so your mind doesn't keep checking the clock. And stand up, put both feet on the floor. And instead of naming what you're feeling or trying to understand it, just ask yourself one question. What does this energy want to do in my body right now? And then let your body answer. Maybe it wants to move, maybe it wants to stretch, maybe it wants to clean something, maybe it wants to go outside. Maybe it just wants to sit on the floor and breathe a little slower. Don't judge the answer, don't try to optimize it. Just let the energy move in the direction that it's asking for. And while you're doing it, try not to narrate it in your head. I know that's hard. Just stay with the physical sensation. Feel your feet, feel your hands, feel the breath changing, and let that be enough. And when the 10 minutes are up, just stop. Don't keep pushing. Just notice how you feel compared to before, because there's going to be a change. And that is what transmutation is. Nothing had to leave, right? Nothing had to be fixed. The energy just changed forms because you gave it somewhere to go, right? That's honestly, like I said, the magic right now. Small, embodied responses instead of big mental spirals, which is hard with all this Aquarius energy. But consistency instead of intensity, right? Coming back to yourself just over and over and over again. So take what you need from this, leave the rest, and remember, you don't have to do any of this perfectly. Just keep showing up for yourself, for your body, and that's how you're going to stay grounded when things really start to move faster, because it's going to start moving faster. All right. Thanks, everyone. Please like and comment and support. I think I have 12 subscribers now, and I'm so happy and so grateful. If you're new to this channel, I'm new as well. And I'm just really excited about this. So thanks for being here. All right. I'll see you next time.